Got this chunk of wood left over from a project I'm building, and I was thinking it would make a nice live edge keepsake box. Got this dish cutter bit, thinking about using to hollow it out. At some point I will have to cut this end off because there's a check running almost down to that line, but I'm going to get this thing flattened first. So the plan is, once I get this flattened, the edges and the ends worked, I'll saw part of it off to make a lid and then hollow what's left down below that. I might make the lid thick enough that I can hollow it too. I haven't decided just yet. But to begin with, I'm going to mill the top side of this block flat on the joiner, and then I will take it over to the RAS and mill the bottom side flat. Got to cut the shaft off of my slab flattening bit so I can use it on the RAS and raise it up high enough to get this block of wood under it. I got the RAS set up to do my slab flattening. I stuck this piece of 2x6 behind here to give some clearance from the fence and to give me a stop to rest this board against. Luckily I had just enough adjustment in my guard that I could raise it up high enough to accommodate the shorter bit. Alright, I'm going to take this over to the joiner, hit it a couple of passes to clean up the tool marks, and it should be good, ready for sanding. Got to give the edges of my block a good sanding to get all the bark off. A little layer underneath the bark didn't peel off with it. I drew a line on my block just inside this check that I want to cut off, and I squared it to my fence and put some wedges behind it to hold it in place. Since this live edge is not square, I can't just slap it against the fence and hold it. Right now I'm at 1 7/8 thickness on my block. I decided I want the lid to be 3/4 of an inch and the bottom part to be 1 inch. So I'm cutting this at 13/16 and that'll give me a 1/16 on each side to mill off to get rid of the saw marks. I need to cut one live edge off of this block. That'll make installing the hinges much easier, and it'll give me a square edge to reference off of when I go to hollow out the inside of the box. I've got the block aligned where the blade will come right to this edge here, and then after I get that cut made, I'm going to cut this part of the end off. I got a decent fit between the pieces, but where the live edges come together, they're not quite meshing up. It's just because of the saw cut and the sanding, taking out wood in between the two pieces, the curves just don't line up anymore. Not awful lot, maybe 1/16 of an inch. So my plan is just to sand the two pieces where they'll match. Alright, it's got them good and even. I'll hit that with a couple finer grits to smooth it out. I got the front edge sanded down to 320. I went ahead and rounded off all four corners while I have it clamped together. Now, the tricky part I've been dreading is I got to figure out how to build a router jig so I can hollow this thing out. It's got to be where I can use it on both pieces and the hollowed out portion will match up between the lid and the lower part of the box. I spent a couple hours deciding how I was going to make a router jig so I could hollow the bottom and the lid of this box and keep them accurate. I was able to use an old clamping jig, and then I just screwed down some blocks and pieces that'll hold my bottom and the lid in place to help keep this from sliding, since it's a live edge and I can't clamp it very tight on the front, I put some double-sided tape on here. Did that with both pieces, and getting ready to stick those down and route this out. The cutouts in the lid and the bottom align pretty well. Now I've got to work on getting some hinges on here. This is the style hinge I've decided to use on this box. So to cut my mortises, I got a 1/4 inch spiral down cut in my router table. I've got these guide blocks set on each side. This block is 5/32 from the edge of the bit, and when I get ready to cut the other side, I'll move this block in the same distance. Got it. I'm going to slap a coat of towel on here and see what we got. Alright, I'm going to give this a little more buffing and then call this one done. It'll probably need another coat, but there's no point in dragging the video out any longer, putting the last coat on. The color is probably not going to change much from what it is right now. It may dry down a little bit lighter, but while it's wet, it's probably about as dark as it's going to get.